I want to share a story that will really set up this concept well. This is a story that just happened to me. I was so blown away, and I tried to get this guy on the show, but as you'll find out by the end of the story, he was forbidden, unfortunately. So here's what happened. For those of you who have taken a flight anywhere in the last couple of years, I think we can all agree at this point airline travel is kind of a disaster. For so many reasons, right? There's shortages in labor for pilots and flight attendants. Customer service has dropped. Prices have gone higher. And there's just so many problems. There's delays. There's issues. There's everything. So, right? So if you have to fly somewhere right now, you're probably not only have low expectations, but you probably go in bracing for the worst. Am I going to get delayed? Is my flight going to get canceled? So there's so many things that are you brace for bad, right? So I was flying out a couple of months ago to speak at a conference. It was on JetBlue, and I was in the terminal waiting for the flight. And about a half hour before we were scheduled to board, the pilot, whose name is Jerry Todd, came out. Now, keep in mind, I want you to listen to the beginning of the story, not the flight attendant. The pilot came out to the terminal to address the people at the terminal. So all of a sudden, he says, very loud voice, "Could I have everybody's attention, please?" I was working on my laptop, and I said, you know what? What's this about? So I look up, and so this is what the pilot said. He said, quote unquote, "I've got some news for everybody, and it's not good news. The news is that the plane we were supposed to fly out on has mechanical issues, and we have not located another plane to replace it. So I just wanted to be honest and transparent. You have my word that we are working on a solution actively, and I will continue to give you updates every few minutes." Now, of course, you hear the rumbling and grumbling because now people are like, are we even going to get off the ground? And when's another flight? So now people are irritated, and it's kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy of preparing for the worst when you fly. But then, before he walked away, he actually kind of joked around with some passengers and built some rapport with passengers. So I was really taken aback by the fact that the pilot himself came out to address the group, was honest and transparent, which is very rare with an airline, being accountable. Everything's rare. And I'm working on my laptop, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like, this is so inconsistent with what I would expect from airlines, and so inconsistent for the expectations I would have for how airlines would handle their customer relationships, that I was kind of surprised. But I'm like, okay, so let's see how this plays out. He comes out 20 minutes later, and this to me was so significant because what do we talk about with leaders? Follow-up. Keep your commitments. Do what you say you're going to do. Well, he said he was going to give consistent updates. Out he comes out 20 minutes later. He comes out and he says, okay, everybody, I still have nothing to report. However, we think there might be another plane here in Logan, actually, that we can use. So we're still checking on that, but don't have any final answers for you. But I will be out again in a few minutes to update you. Still the pilot, still following through. So finally, 15 minutes later, he comes out and he says, great news, everybody. We have located a plane in Logan, and we're going to actually be able to begin boarding in 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm just still taken aback by the level of communication, the consistency of follow-up. It's being done by the pilot, not the flight attendants. So I get on the plane, and I walk on the plane, and this guy, Jerry Todd, is at the door of the cockpit. And I stop, and I look at him, and I go, who are you? I literally said to him, who are you? I go, Jerry, and I saw his name tag. I didn't know him. I said, Jerry, I have never had an experience this positive on an airline where you took a situation that was negative and frustrating and disappointed, and because you were so honest and clear with your communication, you totally made people feel like included, comfortable, gave them peace of mind of what to clearly expect. And I said, I'm just taken aback, and I really appreciate the communication. And if he was very humble, he's like, thank you very much. I said, Jerry, I need to have you on iCommunicate. I need to have you on the radio show. I said, so he's like, well, yeah, I'd be interested. I said, but in the meantime, when we land, I was going to Las Vegas. When we land in Las Vegas, I said, would you, and this was now, you're talking 11 o'clock at night, Pacific time. I said, would you stay back with me for a few minutes and let me just do an interview with my phone? So he said, yeah, I will. So we land in Las Vegas. The story gets better. Like I'm not even done yet. So we land in Las Vegas and I'm walking off the plane. And I said, Jerry, I would understand if you don't want to do the interview because I'm sure you're tired. And he goes, no, I'll do the interview. I just need to help the flight attendants clean the plane first. I'm like, huh? Again, who are you? Right? So now he's helping the flight attendants clean the plane. So now I'm like, this guy's an outlier. Like, where did this guy come from? So meanwhile, I wait for him. He comes out. I walk with the pilot and the co-pilot. He lets me do a 6-minute interview with him. And I was not able to use the interview because JetBlue said that he can't do that. He couldn't come on the show and he couldn't do the interview. But I did do the interview, but I wasn't able to put it out on social media. And one of the things I said to him in the interview is I said, Jerry, this kind of behavior from airlines is so unique and unusual. And part of me is frustrated that I'm making such a big deal because it's so unusual, which is disappointing. But, how did you get this way? And I found out since he's actually the assistant chief of pilots nationally for JetBlue, and he's based out of Boston. But he basically said, to get to the moral of the story, he basically said, look, leading by example to me means that you're not better than anybody else. Your responsibilities or your things aren't more important than anybody else. So when I clean the cockpit with the flight attendants, or when I clean the plane with the flight attendants, the message I want to give is, I'm not better than you because I'm the pilot and you're a flight attendant. We're in this together. And what better way to lead by example than to actually do the action that you're talking about? And the last piece is, I asked him, I said, so where did you learn to do that kind of communication? Because I bet, Jerry, you would acknowledge there's not a lot of pilots in your own airline that are doing things like that. And he said that it's just the people that have influenced and mentored him in his life, really prioritize that. And so I started the show with the story today because when we come back, what we're really talking about today is conversation expectations. What do you expect of other people when you have conversations with them, right? How do you balance, as an HR person, how do you balance when you're having conversations with people, knowing that on one hand, you have to protect the company and any potential risk, but also you want to be supportive and advocate for the employee? How do you, as a leader, hold people accountable for the work they're supposed to do day in and day out, and at the same time remain empathetic to the challenges they're having during the pandemic?
Well, and manage their expectations, right?
And manage their expectations. And what Jerry did, final thought before break, what Jerry did is he balanced his responsibility to the airline to be honest and transparent and say what was really happening, but by communicating effectively, he supported the team.